get back now to our correspondent in Zimbabwe, This after reports emerged that Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has now signed the controversial constitutional amendment bill into law. Now, we saw a 3-hour online protest by rights groups as well as opposition. It seemed to have not resulted in much.
Good evening, Tavo, indeed, and good evening to our viewers home. Indeed, the opposition and the civil society groups tried by all means to stop the signing into law of this controversial amendment bill number 2, which now effectively is the law of Zimbabwe and gives the president a power to appoint and as well as extend the tenure of judges, as well as deal with many issues like the laws, like the loans that government can access from the international community. All those issues are now resting in the powers of the president. But I want to tell you that as of this evening, the civil society took the matter to High Court. They are challenging that this law was passed illegally. They want the parliament to reverse this law and the president to stop implementing this law. For instance, already the Chief Justice who was supposed or was due to retire by the weekend, this coming weekend, has already had his contract extended for another 5 years, according to the new law.
Now, according to the new law, you're saying he can literally extend the tenure of the Chief Justice, but not only that, he can now appoint vice presidents, 2 of them, without going to elections.
Yeah, well, those are the contest issues. You know, in 2013, 93% of Zimbabweans voted for a new constitution, which introduced what we call the running mate. And this is not a new thing in Africa. It is there in Malawi, it is there in Tanzania, as well as in Kenya. So Zimbabwe was to introduce what we call the running mate, whereby the vice president and the president were to be elected at the same time during the general elections. But the new amendments have brought back a system whereby the president will appoint his deputies. And that's what the civil society says. This is unconstitutional, as well as entrenches bad governance. It gives the powers, unfettered powers to the president. It's more like going back to the Mugabe era, where he had too much powers, abusing the same powers.
What are what is the ruling party saying about this? Are they seeing this as a good thing, and they're saying what are the benefits of these amendments?
Well, on Friday, the spokesperson of the ruling party, Simon Kayamo, said that if there's anything that they wanted was to have the president with unfettered powers, because they believe that the vision he must implement must be his, and there must also be one kind of power. They believe that if the running mate clause is there, the president would have a challenge in the vice president, and that would create instability in the presidency. Also, they say that according to the spokesperson, Simon Kayamo, he says that judges mature with age, hence therefore they must have their tenures increased or extended up to 75 years. I don't know what really evidence do they have that when a person reaches 75 years, he is more mature and his rulings or his judgments represents maturity. But in 2013, Zimbabweans said we want judges and those of the superior courts to retire at 70, as well as they must undergo public interviews. But in this case now, the president will just pick from whoever he wants from the bench and promote them to the superior courts.
So there's a real fear then amongst opposition parties that this creates a real dictatorship then, as far as Emmerson Mnangagwa, the president, is concerned.
I was afraid of using that word directly, Tabo, because that is the reality happening. If you talk to opposition parties in Zimbabwe, they are saying that Emmerson Mnangagwa is becoming the real Robert Mugabe. He is becoming a dictator slowly, and he has lost all the promises he made when he came into power. He is diverting from what he said he will not do, or he's doing exactly what he said he will not do. Because remember, when he came into power, he said that he wants to open up the democratic space, allow people's participation in key decisions that are made by the government. And in this case now, the parliament, which is a house consisting of people's views, are no longer going to be involved in determining which loan to access from the international community. And all those are issues which Emmerson Mnangagwa is now making and bring it to himself to say he will be the key maker. And that is definitely what Robert Mugabe would do.
Yeah. What will be the impact of this bill on media freedom and freedom of speech in Zimbabwe?
Well, you know that the government of Zimbabwe has tried by all means to open up the space. As they tell you, they've tried to deal away with the IPA, or the Access to Information Law, which was very draconian by nature. They brought in around 3 bills that are dealing with at the moment. But critically is that this bill gives the president powers to go further and make new or what they call temporal laws without Parliament coming in or being involved. At the end of the day, he can do anything. He can change media laws at any time. And once that happens, it simply means the freedom to expression, freedom of the media is not so guaranteed, you know, as we go by, because those are the issues that ZANU-PF has always raised the flag on, saying these rights are being abused by the civil society as well as journalists.
So, I mean, in essence, people in Zimbabwe will be, particularly normal citizens, will be in trouble should they express their views or a view that seemingly criticizes or brings or places the image of the country in a negative light.
I would say, Tavo, besides this bill, besides this law being passed, there is also what we call the patriotic bill, which is already in Parliament at the moment. This bill is more worse than the current one we are talking about. This bill criminalizes anyone who tries to scandalize or even to criticize, I would say, the government, be it on public, be it on international arena or during international forums. And that is something that is very dangerous for any young democracy like ours. Those are issues which we must watch against as we go by. And from judging what has happened, with this bill, ZANU-PF has got a majority, and they will do as they want. They have warned that as we move forward, they want even to bar those who speak against this government from standing in any elections. All those are issues that are sounding bells of dictatorship in Emmerson Mnangagwa's government.
And then, Polisani, I suppose where it sits now, we'll have to hear from the courts then. I mean, the president has signed it. It has become law, and what will happen next will be coming from the decision of the courts.
Well, what will happen next, definitely, we now wait what the court will deal with this matter that has been brought before it by Musa Kaka, who is the chairperson of the the civil society human rights grouping. We were saying that this law was passed unconstitutionally. They are saying that Parliament did an unconstitutional, it does not have powers to change this kind of laws without taking the referendum. They want these issues that were passed by Parliament to be taken to the referendum, so that people might have an input as well as decide whether they want the powers of the president to be expanded like the way they've now been expanded in this case.
Olizani Ncube, I appreciate your time. Newsroom Africa Zimbabwe correspondent there, unpacking for us the implications of the constitutional amendments for democracy and constitutionalism in Zimbabwe. We look at what's making news in the newsfeed late night when we continue next.